Although I have a lifetime of experience, I'm still only human, and I do make mistakes. This video, which is filmed over 3 trips up the loch, tells the story of my latest mistake. It also illustrates why I love the loch so much and never tired of being there. Every time I go, it takes on a different mood and something new always happens. So sit back, relax and learn from my mistake and enjoy the views. This story starts during the last week of November. It was a bright but bitterly cold day. I was looking forward to filming the last of the autumn colours, as Storm Arwen was forecast to hit the hills in a few days' time and would blow the last of the leaves from the trees. A white frost snipped the salty seaweed on the shore as I readied the boat for another day out. The water was flat calm on this windless day. I was looking forward to using the new camera and gimbal, as it was only my third attempt at using it and still learning its mysterious ways, although I'm delighted with the footage I get. I noticed the countryside was very colourful as I passed Cormorant Buoy at Tinault, where I launched the boat. Turning east through the Bono Narrows at high tide, and it was 9 o'clock in the morning. It was well past tourist season, so I suspected I would have the upper loch to myself. Well, with the exception of some local wildlife enjoying the peace and quiet of a cold, late autumn day. I was happily lost in a world of my own, watching the scenery float by through the lens of my camera. The regular beat of a 6-horsepower outboard, running on a quarter throttle and sipping fuel at displacement speeds, remind me it's the best size of outboard for my inland needs. A day up the loch cost me less than £5 for fuel. I headed across the loch to Portland Drobran to try my luck with the lure. Yep, I was out for the day and quite happy supping coffee on board the boat as I bounced a bit of dead mackerel along the loch bottom. I think the fish were quite happy too, but certainly not hungry as I didn't get so much as a nibble. After slurping my coffee, I started up the outboard and continued on my way. I found it cold but refreshing travelling along the southern bank of the loch, as I normally go up the northern banks. Although I did eventually cross to the northern side, the thought of fish in Cardersley Bay lured me that way. I do enjoy fishing, but I also do get bored just holding a rod in the water. 2 coffees later and I began to think the fish were like the tourists, long gone or out of season. I reeled in and headed on my way. I had bigger fish to fry. I wanted to catch the surrounding scenery in my camera. I watched in wonderment as shafts of sunlight slipped through the clouds, illuminating the hills with a golden glow. It really was a beautiful sight for eyes which lived in the confines of a city for most of my life. So you can perhaps understand why I lost interest in finding the fish. I felt like I was floating in air rather than boating in water. Such was the surrealistic atmosphere the lighting gave to the loch. I was mesmerised by the mountains and fair taken by the trees. Immersed in a watery world of my own, the only slight inconvenience was it was bloody cold and I began to shiver. I tried to look on the bright side and say, well, at least there are no midges. I also knew I had to land and have a walk soon to warm myself up. I crossed the loch again to some sandy beaches near the foot of Starriff. As soon as I landed, I jumped out the boat and started jumping up and down, flapping arms like a penguin flaps fins to get my circulation going. Then poured myself a hot coffee. Although I didn't know it at the time, it was on this beach that I made my mistake. I did anchor the boat, so it was too much of a rookie mistake to make. Feeling much warmer after my coffee and a bite to eat, I took a stroll along the shore. I was now as warm as toast and as happy as a sandboy with not a care in the world. After all the coffee I had consumed that morning, I stopped to relieve myself and then continued on my way. It was a week later when I reviewed the video clips that I discovered my mistake. I took off my buoyancy aid to have my pee and left it on the shore to recover it on my way back. The only problem was I didn't recover it. I forgot all about it. The buoyancy aid didn't worry me too much, but my personal location beacon was attached to it, and I had recently had it serviced and the battery renewed. I'm still surprised I didn't notice I wasn't wearing it when I clambered back into the boat, but suspect it was due to having a cold brain and also too many layers of clothes on. Whatever the reason, I started back towards Taynuilt, but had another stop in mind before heading for home. I planned on having a gawk at the seals, which haul out in the reefs of Inverliver Bay. There is a healthy collection of both common and grey seals in Loch Etive, and I enjoy visiting them. I know they spook easily, so stop the outboard off the reefs and let the tide carry me closer. Grey seals are generally bigger than the common seal, with a long straight nose and parallel nostrils, while common seals have a distinct forehead and V-shaped nostrils. They seem happy enough to swim around the boat, but they don't come too close. I heard one wailing on the outer reef, so went to investigate. I saw an exceptionally fat grey seal and two smaller greys in attendance. I may be wrong, but I suspect it was a pregnant female and two younger males. She was not going to move off her perch, and the two smaller ones appeared to get between her and the boat, as if to shield her. I circled round the one, sizing up the situation, and then decided to leave him in peace, as I didn't want to scare them. I hoped a small miracle would happen, and next time I visit I would find a small, white fur ball of newborn grey seal. I headed back to Kelly's Pier at Tinault and packed all my gear away in the car. I was still not aware that I didn't have a buoyancy aid on. Or perhaps I did and I left it on the beach. I didn't even notice it missing when I unpacked the car back at the house. I only noticed it missing when I started to collect everything together for another trip, almost 2 weeks later. Storm Arwen came and went, but strong winds kept me land-bound for a few days. Then a break in the forecast predicted a nice sunny and windless day, so I collected all my boat gear, and it was only then I discovered I hadn't got my buoyancy aid. I searched the house high and low, but all I could think of was I left it on the beach, where I took it off for a pee. I hated myself for being so careless, but duly notified the Coast Guard and the PLB registry office to say that I had misplaced it, and if it should go off it would be a false alarm. Gordon and the Cocker crew arrived to assist sniffing out the buoyancy aid, which I'm certain would smell a little of me as I had it for 15 years. If we could find it, the PLB should still be attached. The plan for the day was a simple one, to head straight to the beach where I thought I'd left it, but to be honest I didn't hold much hope of finding it. I'd taken it off below high water mark and Storm Arwen could have left it anywhere. I could see the storm had left a covering of snow in the hilltops, and I even wondered if 80 mile/hour plus winds could have left a buoyancy aid on a hilltop. I consoled myself by saying there was no point of worrying until I'd searched the beach, so I settled down to enjoy seeing the scenery on the way there. I must admit the loch looked absolutely stunning, surrounded by hills with white tops. I could see Gordon and the Cocker crew were really enjoying the journey too. It was one of these special days that make winter boating so worthwhile. It didn't take long to reach the beach, where we landed and had a good sniff around. Sadly, but not surprisingly, there was no sign of a buoyancy aid. It was bitterly cold in the shady side of the loch, so we decided to accept that it was lost and head over to the sunny side of the loch and sit and have our coffee. We landed at the old jetty for Dow and sat in the wall slurping coffee, admiring the scenery and doing the dog walk. Then we returned to the boats and headed further on up the loch. It was such a lovely day. Storm Arwen had blown the last of the leaves from the trees, but fortunately I didn't see too much damage to the old forest. Most were still standing intact. In summer, I often see climbers clambering up the granite slabs of wont, but none were on it this day. Perhaps it was too cold for fingers to grip the rocks. When we ran out of Loch, there was nothing else to do except to turn round and head back the way we came. We scanned the southern shore for signs of a washed-up boysenade, but as it was black and grey, I didn't hold much hope. I did think that the next boysenade I would buy would be red, as I could easily see Gordon from afar. We also stopped to have a random look, and of course to have a coffee break before clambering back into boats. Passing the reefs at Inverliver Bay, I slowed to see if I could see a newborn grey seal. However, almost immediately 2 grey seals appeared 6 feet from the transom and closely followed the boat. This was completely out of character for this group of seals, and I presumed it was the 2 males who attended a very large female and were here to herd me away from the reef and a possible newborn. They continued to show me off until I was 100 yards away from the reef, so I left them in peace again. We arrived back at Tinault at exactly low water, so decided to allow the tide to come in a little before recovering the boats by heading further down the loch towards the Connell Bridge. We passed under the bridge, then turned to head back to Tinault. Passing the Laura Dawn 2 fishing charter as she passed under the bridge heading for her home port of Oban. As we headed for home, the sun slid slowly below the horizon. We had just had a perfect winter's day in the water. I was still annoyed with myself for losing the boysenade and PLB, so to put the mistake behind me, I ordered a new PLB when I get home and reported the loss to the police and confirmed with the Coast Guard and Registry Office that my last one was lost. Storm Barra arrived in Scotland, and so did my new personal location beacon, before the weather improved enough to allow me to go boating again. The forecast promised light winds and sunshine. However, it proved to be cold and misty, but I happily set up the boat at 9 AM on the almost dark December day. I sported a red and orange life jacket, so I could find it easily. Although I could hardly see a thing, my plan for the day was to head for the reefs at Inverliver Bay and see if I could find a small miracle, the newborn grey seal. I hoped the mist would clear as the morning wore on. I saw there was some life in the loch as I passed the old quarry. Then I was engulfed by the grey, featureless expanse of the loch. I crept along the northern edge, keeping in sight of the shore. I was happy enough as I knew exactly where I was going. In fact, I found it quite an interesting game, wondering exactly where I was. After an hour of sitting in freezing fog, I decided to land for my morning coffee, to wait and see if the mist would thin a little. Although I was getting a little cold, I warmed to the thought that I'd be very visible in my new buoyancy aid. I now accepted that I had got over my careless loss. As I slurped hot coffee, I wondered what the views would have been like. Refreshed, I then clambered back into the boat and continued on my way. I knew the seals were in Inverliver Bay, which was on the other side of the loch, but decided to continue on the north side until I reached the jetty at Dow. And on the way, I passed this big grey, sitting on its semi-submerged perch. Then I landed at Dow for another coffee and a patient wait as I felt the mist was about to break. As soon as I could see the other side, I jumped back in the boat and headed across the loch. My timing was perfect, as the 15-minute crossing proved to be very atmospheric, as the mist slowly dissolved, revealing a blue, cloudless sky. It cleared very fast and I didn't know where to look first, which confused the camera as it hunted to focus properly. But it's these magical moments that keep me returning every opportunity I get. You will have noticed that the past 3 trips have been different every day. I was now at the reefs of Inverliver Bay and keen to see the seals. So I shut down the outboard, poured myself a coffee and let the boat drift away. I slurped coffee and drifted for half an hour, and although I enjoyed watching some youngish common seals and the odd older grey seal, I didn't see the two males or a big female or a newborn. So perhaps I was mistaken thinking the female was pregnant. Or perhaps I just dreamt it all. However, as I have it on video, I do think it was real. As it was now a beautiful day, I restarted the outboard and continued on my way for a tour round the loch. The mist didn't disperse entirely. It moved around a little, but I managed to keep clear of it. Then, for some reason, I was attracted to this shore. It's one I've never landed on before. I tied up in the sand, then went for a walk to get my circulation going again, as it's still very cold. Then a real miracle did happen. I found the buoyancy aid and PLB I had lost a month ago. I dried it out and everything is still in good condition. So although I now have 2 PLBs, I no longer hate myself for being so careless. I'm still not sure if there is a newborn seal somewhere in the loch, but if there is, I'm sure I will find it someday too. So I've learned the hard way not to leave things on the shore when I go walkabouts, but to leave them in the boat. I have also decided to use red and orange life jacket going forward, as it's far easier to see whether I'm in it or not. And after I drained the last from my flask, I happily jumped back into the boat and started back towards Tynalt. I had just enjoyed another perfect day, going up the loch in my promised land. And as every day is different, I doubt I will ever tire of doing it. I hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.